Out of curiosity, what happens when we post a Facebook video? We go out into closed session and then we just come back on. There's no waiting period, right? That wouldn't make any sense. But I don't know. I've not watched them because I live them.
Chairperson Taft, we are back on live.
Okay, great. We're back on live. I was just curious about the pause. All right, so we are back in open session. Thank you everybody for your patience and good discussion. We are going to consider item 431-21, communication sponsored by Mayor Mason, seeking approval to enter into a development incentive agreement with CCM Porters LLC regarding the Porters site located at 301 6th Street and 608 Wisconsin Avenue. Staff recommendation is that the request to enter into development incentive agreement with CCM Porters LLC regarding the Porters site located at the aforementioned location be approved, and the mayor and city clerk be authorized and directed to execute the agreement and such related documents necessary to carry the agreement into effect on the city's behalf. So I would at this time say that a motion would be in order, and so do I have such a motion?
A move to approve, Alder Pete.
Moved by Alder Pete.
Second.
Seconded by Alder West. Thank you both. At this time, I would ask if there's any discussion on the item. Seeing none, I'm going to request a roll call vote for this item, please.
Chair Taft?
Yes.
Vice Chair West?
Aye.
Alder Pete?
Aye.
Alder Mi'kmaq?
Yes.
Alder Tate?
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Next item on the agenda that we will consider is item 300-21, the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Racine, Racine Water Utility, and the Village of Mount Pleasant relating to cost sharing on Oaks Road infrastructure projects. The recommendation of the Waterworks Commission was to approve and refer to Finance and Personnel. Staff recommendation is to approve. No fiscal note at this time. So a motion. Is there anybody here to speak to this item? I don't believe there is.
Yeah,
Dr. Fisher, do you?
I don't know if Mike Gitter was able to jump back on quite yet. I don't see him in the attendee list.
Was it his intention to speak to this item tonight?
He was on before we went into closed session.
Okay.
So I don't necessarily have his contact information, so I can't text him.
Okay.
I can say I've read the agreement and this isn't.
Alder Taft, do you want to postpone it until he can be here? I mean, it is an intergovernmental agreement on behalf of the city that we've not been briefed on.
Yeah, I think I would feel more comfortable with a briefing on this item. We didn't talk as much about it in Waterworks as we could, so I guess we can. I'm gonna hold this item. I can text. Does anybody want to text Mr. Gitter? Should I text Mr. Gitter? I mean,
Move to defer.
okay, we have a motion to defer. I will just second that motion, unorthodox as it may be. And we can, but I want to defer with a plan to actually contact Mike. So who's taking point on that? Okay, I think I have his cell phone number, so I think I have his cell, but I'm not sure if it's his cell or work. So I will text him right now. Oh, no, I won't, because he's not turning up on my feed. So somebody else has to contact him. Is anyone able to do that at this point? All right, I gotta get Mr. Gitter's number in my phone, I guess. So I guess we're just gonna defer with the intention of hopefully he gets back on. And then
For the next meeting.
oh, we're deferring to the next meeting, not just to the end of the thing. Okay. Do you have any inside information onto whether that would be harmful to defer to the next meeting? Dr. Fisher, Mr. Mayor?
Really,
Look, I mean, it's an intergovernmental agreement on behalf of the city that the city really wasn't engaged in drafting or negotiating. So I don't know what to say other than we should probably be briefed before we
Oh,
engage
definitely.
in intergovernmental agreements before we vote on it.
Ma'am, I do have
Okay.
a cell phone number if you want me to try getting a hold of him.
I, you could give it a try, but I think we've already sort of have a motion on the floor to defer to the next meeting. Moved and properly seconded. I will second the move to the next meeting. So let's vote on that first. So any discussion on the motion to defer the item to the next finance and personnel meeting? I don't see any. So a vote would be, sorry, yeah, did I hear a?
I apologize
Okay.
for Attorney, Assistant City Attorney Rubik. Just wanted to point out, we may not have a meeting coming up until July. And Attorney Ledney can perhaps confirm this. Obviously, it would be at the will of the chair, but there isn't a council meeting again until July after the beginning of June meeting. So I'll give you a time frame for the potential.
No, I appreciate it. It's just, I don't even have a good sense of whether that would be detrimental at this point.
I
Director Fisher.
I think Mike is back on as an attendee, according to my listing here that I'm seeing. So I think he just got back on, if that helps.
Okay. Great. Yeah. Can we promote him to a participant so he can, oh, I see it's already been done. Thank you very much. Okay. Mr. Gitter, are you with us, sir?
Yes, I am. Good evening.
All right. Thank you so much. Would you be so kind as to give us a briefing on this item before us with the intergovernmental agreement?
Yeah, simply what this is a cost sharing item. So the Village of Mount Pleasant is paving Oaks Road from 16th Street to roughly Case High School. And included in their contract, they're doing sanitary sewer and storm sewer work. And the utility owns and maintains the water main in that area. So what we would like to do is just have our water main, which needs to be relocated, and have that done as part of the village contract, which would make the project much more efficient. It would actually save the utilities some money that we wouldn't have to put out our own contract. There would only be one contractor and you wouldn't have two that were trying to work in the same area. And it would give the residents, they would only have one point of contact to deal with as well. So it'd be a lot of efficiencies and a no cost item to the utility.
Okay, so basically, so Mount Pleasant would pay for the utility would relocate the water main for the utility, and that, like, what is the cost sharing? Like, who's paying for what? Like, where's
No,
the
we're
cost
only-
sharing piece come in?
We're only going to put this on their bid package. So the utility will still have it designed and it'll still be our work, but it'll just be done under their bid package. So only one contract to administer.
Okay, so do you have an estimate of how much that would cost and whether or not it was in the budget? This
The water
particular-
utility work itself
Mhm.
for the water main?
Yeah.
It's not any part of this contract. We're going to have to do this regardless, whether this contract is approved or not. If this agreement is not approved, then we'll just have to take out our own contract and we'll have to do the same exact work. And it'll be the same exact cost. It's just putting it all together in one contract is much more efficient. And we actually save some money that we don't have to bid out a separate contract.
Okay, so we're essentially putting this item, the cost of this item, we're adding it to their bid, and the water utility will be paying for that piece of their contract? Is that?
Correct. Correct. We'll pay Mount Pleasant for our share.
Okay, and just because this is finance and personnel, we love to do these things. What is the cost of the main compared with the cost of the, what is the cost
Yeah,
that we're bidding?
we won't know the exact cost till the bids come in, but it's gonna be around $100,000.
Okay, I appreciate that. I see, Mr. Mayor, you have your hand up, so please proceed.
Yep, Mike, who's the party at Mount Pleasant that was negotiated with on this item?
I don't have the name offhand. Chad Regalia is the one on our side that did this agreement with them.
And then who was consulted with the city of Racine for this agreement?
I don't know if the city was consulted. We just needed the city to sign this because we can't enter into intermunicipal agreements.
So doesn't it seem odd to you that we have an intergovernmental agreement between the city of Racine and a neighbor that we weren't involved in negotiating?
Yeah, we've done these agreements. These are done often. They've been done many, many times in the past. It's just an efficiency issue.
Mr. Mayor, who do you think would be the person on the city side that should be part of
I
negotiating
just-
these?
I would just make this statement. I think if there's going to be intergovernmental agreements between SSR parties, they actually need to be negotiated between the SSR parties and not assumed that we will just rubber stamp them at the end of the process. I think this is a de minimis amount. I think it makes sense to do, but just in principle, I think the city needs to be involved in actually negotiating its intergovernmental agreements.
Yeah, I really don't know what there would be to negotiate. Like I said, if this doesn't go through, we just put out our own contract. So there really isn't anything other than we're using the same contract bid.
Okay, does anybody, oh, Alder Pete, please proceed.
I have to remember to unmute myself. Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a question. I'm not clear on, I understand that in the past, it's been normal procedure, but I don't quite follow how the city is even involved and why there isn't more dialogue or explanation of exactly what's going on between the city and the village, or specifically, why is the city involved? Is there an encroachment between the land area? I need more clarification rather than continuing on, but I just don't quite understand the clear picture. Thank you.
So the water utility has no power for any easements, so they can't sign intermunicipal agreements. So the city needs to sign the agreement on the utility behalf.
Well, thank you very much, sir. That was very clear. I understand that. Okay.
Okay, and so this water main is located on, you said Oaks Road between, sorry,
Yeah, this
something
is-
in Case High School.
Yes.
16th? In Case
Yes.
High School. Okay. Okay, and that's partly in the city, obviously, so. Okay, Alder Pete, you still have your hand up?
Sorry, Madam Chair, I'm done.
No, I just want to make sure you didn't have any other questions. Okay,
No,
No, I mean-
not at this point. Thank you.
no, I mean, I think this has come up repeatedly at Water Commission and Wastewater Commission that like intergovernmental agreements need to involve the governments involved. So I appreciate the clarification. So are there any other questions about this? Alder Tate II, please proceed.
I guess my only hesitation to approve this right now is not really knowing what the costs may be incurred by the utility at this point. We're supposed to reimburse the village for construction oversight management. Do we have an estimate of what that might be? Should the village provide on-site inspection on behalf of the utility will pay for those inspection services. Do we have an estimate of what that might be? It just seems like we're missing a little bit of specificity as it relates to the costs, the actual costs that will be shared. The process in terms of the rationale for doing so makes sense. Like if you're going to do construction in the same space, we're going to need to do construction. Let's try and streamline that by doing it together, but then not having those, at least an estimate or a not to exceed number listed in there seems like an oversight in terms of just what the provisions might be, because we should at least have some basis of how much this might cost or what we're anticipating it to cost, separate from the actual main project itself, since this is the particular piece that we're sharing with the other municipality. So do you have any thoughts on terms of estimate costs of what those particular reimbursements that we would be paying to the village might be?
Yeah, as I said, this is going to be roughly 100,000 offhand. I don't have an exact figure. This is only about 200 feet of main, so we're going to do the inspection work ourselves. We have an engineer that was doing R.A. Smith that was approved at the Waterworks Commission to design this main. So this project and the cost is going to happen regardless if this agreement goes through. It's going to be the exact same cost for the utility.
That's not the piece I'm just saying it at least should be in the agreement to say like what those numbers might be at a cap or an estimate. Just in terms of practice, if we're going to have these sort of documents, it seems like best practice to say like what those numbers might be, as opposed to kind of putting it out there to almost be at the village's kind of discretion what that number might be based on the way this reads. Since we're reimbursing them at whatever they say we need to reimburse. And I think we want to kind of protect ourselves in that regard and say, with a cap of, or not to exceed amount based on what our estimates might be of what these costs could be. That's all I'm saying. Not necessarily that, we should or shouldn't do this because the project's going to proceed, the costs are going to be incurred. But if we're going to have these documents, we ought to have some specifics there to protect ourselves, and just bracket, what's going to occur. That's my comment. Thank you.
Sorry, my understanding, like, the benefit to the utility is that they're already going to have it open, so it makes sense that it would actually not cost exactly the same, right? If Mount Pleasant is paying for opening up the pavement and doing all these things already, then that should be some savings to us. It shouldn't cost exactly the same. Or am I misunderstanding?
No, that's true. We're going to see some cost savings by this contract.
Okay. Yeah, I was just okay. That makes sense. Okay. Thanks everyone for comments, questions. Are there any other? I'm looking for hands. I don't see any other hands. So a motion would be in order at this time.
Ma'am, there's still a motion to defer on the floor.
Oh, you are correct. So we do need to vote on the motion to defer unless the motioner wants to.
Withdraw the motion to defer.
Okay. And I
Second.
seconded it, so I withdraw the second as well. Thank you. So the motion to defer has been withdrawn. So a new motion would be in order.
Move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Moved by Alder Tate the seconded by Alder Miedema.
Sorry, move to approve subject the city attorney's review of the agreement.
Okay. Is the seconder amenable to that? I saw a
Yep.
nod. Yep. Okay. So the motion is to approve pending consultation with city attorney on the contract. Okay. So any discussion on that item? City attorney, does that make sense to you?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor of the amended motion, please signify by saying aye.
I
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Gitter, for explaining that to us all. Okay, next item then. Sorry, I need to scroll down. Next item is item 436-21, communication sponsored by Alder Lemke on behalf of the Public Health Director, requesting to accept $28,000 of funding from the State of Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources for the 2021 Wisconsin Beach Monitoring Program. Staff recommendation is that the staff be authorized to enter into such agreement and accept this funding. Grant is fiscal note grant is for $28,000 and there is no local match. So is there anyone present who wishes to speak to this item?
Dottie K is waiting to be moved up.
Oh, fabulous. Can we move her up? I think it's been done. Administrator Bowersox, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Good evening. Thank you.
Please proceed.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. And good evening to everyone again. This grant is a grant that we've had for approximately the last 6 years. It has to do with the beach monitoring. As noted, the amount is $28,000. We have 13 different coastal beaches that we do the water monitoring on. We are looking for E. coli, reporting it out. We are also looking for any other pollutants and potentially investigating the source of that. The $28,000 covers part-time assistance from 3 interns for their salaries, covers all supplies, so there's no city levy that's associated with this grant or the activities that I just mentioned.
Thank you for that. Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Administrator Bowersox? Yes, Alder Tate II.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Considering this work is water related, is in beach, but mostly water. To what extent do we work with the water utility, and could there be potential savings and stretching these dollars as it relates to this monitoring if we did work more in tandem with the water utility for this monitoring?
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you, Alder. Yes, the recreational water monitoring that we do, we have not worked in tandem with the wastewater facilities and the staff previously. They indicated previously that this was going to be our endeavor and our effort. And again, the grant pays for 100% of any of the activity associated expenses.
Maybe that's something to explore further. Since I imagine they're already doing some degree of monitoring for the same things that are being funded, and we could probably stretch those dollars a little more.
Yeah, I'll be delighted to have a conversation with Mike. At the same time, again, we're doing 13 different jurisdictions. So we're starting with the monitoring from Kenosha all the way to Bayview. So
Okay.
it's just not Zoo, North Beach, and Sam Myers.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay, any further questions for Administrator Bowersox? Okay, seeing none, a motion would be in order at this time.
Move to accept and approve.
Second.
Okay, move to approve and seconded by Alder Tate II and seconded by Alder Pete. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? With that, motion carries. Thanks so much. Okay, next item is also, I believe, something that Administrator Bowersox can help us with. So item 437-21, communication sponsored by Alder Lemke on behalf of the Public Health Director requesting, I'm sorry, Director, not Administrator, my tongue tied, to accept $21,000 of from the state of Wisconsin Department of Health Services for local public health departments HIV prevention partner services consolidated program. Staff recommendation is to accept the $21,000 from the state of Wisconsin Department of Health Services for this purpose. Fiscal note grant is for $21,000 and there is no local match. I mean, Director Bowersox, do you want to speak to this item?
Yes, thank you. This is again a long-term grant that we've been receiving from the state of Wisconsin. We have direct interaction with those individuals that have been confirmed HIV positive. We have interaction about treatment opportunities and options, counseling and such, but it also pays for the investigation part and the partner notification. So the individuals that they've been involved with that need to be notified of their status.
Okay, great. Is there any questions or discussion on this item? I don't see any hands, so a motion would be in order at this time.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Alder Pete, seconded by Alder West. Any further discussion on the item? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item is scrolly. For item 438-21, communication sponsored by Alder Lemke on behalf of the Public Health Director requesting to accept $610,200 of funding from the state of Wisconsin Department of Health Services for local public health departments ELC COVID-19 grant. Staff recommendation is that the staff be authorized to enter an agreement and accept funding as denoted, fiscal note grant is for $610,200 and there is no local match. Director Bowersox, would you like to speak to this item?
Oh, thank you. Again, thank you. So this is an expansion of funds that we've already received from the state of Wisconsin. Previous funds were $375,900. This is the flexibility within these funds allows us for the testing, the contact tracing, vaccine administration. It's to be overtime for staff, vendors, supplies. And again, flexible money that we can use for those items that I've just mentioned. But again, it's an expansion of funds that we've already received and that we've already expended within the COVID pandemic.
Great. Thank you for that. Any questions for Director Bowersox? Seeing none, a motion would be in order at this time.
Move to approve.
Moved by Alder
Second.
West, seconded by Alder Tate II. Any further discussion on the item? I don't see any hands. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Next, thank you. Okay, I believe next item is item 439-21, communication sponsored by Mayor Mason, recommending that the City of Racine Public Health Administrator, Community Health Director, and Director of Environmental Health be paid for unused 2020 vacation leave. Staff recommendation is to approve. Fiscal note, the total amount to be paid will be no more than $11,725.97. So is there anybody who wishes to speak to this item? Administrator Bornhold, please proceed.
Good evening. Mayor Mason has this motion before you to realize the incredible year that the health department went through in 2020. And there are 3 salaried positions in that department, including the administrator herself. And they just were not able to use their vacation time, obviously, last year. We, as an administration, extended the carryover policy to June 30th of this year, but that we moved from testing, tracing, contact to now vaccines. The workload has not subsided. It has only just fourfolded and increased again. And it's in a recognition of the time that they're putting in and the time that they're not getting off. It's unique, we believe, to a public health emergency. And we would like to, even though we have waived, I want you to know for other, to be fair to all employees, there have been many in various departments that had to carry over. We have extended the June 30th now to the end of the year, but we have more confidence that the backup and staffing in other departments, that they can still be encouraged. And we really do want to encourage our employees to take time off. It's for their own health. It is just unique to the health department that we just don't have the backup. And these efforts would, fail if we don't have the management and the administration of these programs. So that is the recommendation before you, is that at their option, they can use whatever vacation time they want to, but at their option, they can exercise to be paid out so they don't lose it.
You're muted.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that explanation. Sorry, it's getting late. Does anybody have any questions? I see Alder Miikma has a hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to say this makes a lot of sense to me. I think it's the least we can do in a very difficult situation. And I appreciate us taking efforts to try and find ways to honor the work and energy that they put in. It's probably not even enough at this point, but I think this is a good direction. Thank you.
I would tend to agree. Thank you, Alder Miikma. So do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Okay, move to approve by Alder Pete, seconded by Alder West. And do I have, you guys are quick on the draw with the seconds. Do I have any further discussion on the item? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next item then, sorry, the toggling is tiresome, but such as it is. Okay, so that seems, oh no, we do have one more item. I'm like, wait, okay. Item 434-21, communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the finance director, submitting the presentation of the fourth quarter 2020 and the first quarter 2021 fiscal results and the March 2021 investment schedule. Director Fisher, would you like to speak to this item?
Certainly. Thank you very much for having me. I will go as quickly as is humanly possible, as we have been here a very long time. There are 3 items attached to the agenda item. I will quickly go through the December 20 results as they sit right now. The auditors are actually doing the audit right now. I don't anticipate any of these numbers to change, but they are unaudited, so I wanted to let you know that. Overall, for the city of Racine, 2020 actually fiscally ended up to be a relatively okay year. And that was for 2 primary reasons. One was that we had, if you remember, hiring freeze, or we left positions open, knowing that the revenue side of the equation was going to be a problem. We had lost revenue in 2020. So that helped significantly on the expenditure side of the equation. And then on the revenue side of the equation, if you recall, we also received routes for recovery funds from the state of Wisconsin. And that really assisted us with paying for almost our entire health department salaries, including regular salaries, for the year. So overall, for 2020, the largest operating fund, the general fund, is actually going to add to reserves or to fund balance by about $1.9 million, rather than what we budgeted to use fund balance of about 1.5. Now, having said all of that, I'll roll into the first quarter of 21, because 21 does not look great so far. It could change. But again, anything that falls into that fund balance in 2020 would be reappropriated in either 21 or moving into 22, 23 to help assist with that structural deficit that we are still within. Okay. So moving on very, very quickly, I do want to talk about, just for 2020, the healthcare fund as well. So within those documents, I always include the healthcare fund, our second largest operating fund behind the general fund. If you recall, for 2020 was our first year under the high deductible health plan. Okay. We saw significant savings associated with, we're not quite sure whether it was fully the high deductible health plan or just because of COVID. I think it was a mix of the two. So we had a very positive year in the healthcare area. We added about $4.5 million to fund balance in the healthcare fund. Having said that, we needed every bit of that in the healthcare fund, again, to help with the structural deficit going forward in 22, 23, 24. So those hard decisions that the Common Council made at the end of 19 into 20 did exactly what was intended for it to do. I don't think those results will be quite as positive in healthcare in 21, and we'll talk about that a little bit, but we still are seeing positive results there. Going into March of 2021, the expenditure side of the equation looks relatively good so far, and that's mostly because there are still a ton of vacant positions. We have a lot of retirements going on right now, a lot of positions vacant. It's taking time to fill those positions. So I think there's almost a vacant in almost every department at this point in time. So that's kind of what we're seeing in each one of the departments. I'll say, when I look at fiscal results for the quarter, I always look at certain things to watch for. So on the expense side of the equation, one of the things for us to watch for is, if you recall, Common Council passed during the budget the sick leave payout and the change to the sick leave payout. We are seeing a lot of retirements because of that. So that sick leave payout is going to be higher than what we had anticipated in the budget. But that is just one thing that I will continue to watch as we go through here and as we get closer to that kind of June 30th timeline. But other than that, on the expenditure side of the equation, everything else looks relatively consistent and exactly what I expect. Only other minor thing that we're seeing is fuel. So as we all know, you guys go to the pump too, right? Fuel is more expensive than it was last year. It is more expensive than what even the garage anticipated it being for 2021. So we'll see a little uptick in fuel as well. So those are the two areas that I'm kind of watching. On the revenue side of the equation in the general fund for March 31st, it looks very consistent to what I would expect to see. Our interest income is very low. It's going to be very low. Interest rates are super low right now. That's okay. I always budget conservatively for interest income for exactly that reason. Markets change very, very quickly. So I'm always very conservative when we propose the budget for interest income. And the only other thing that has a pretty significant swing is intergovernmental revenues. And that's only because our shared revenues don't come till November. So that's the majority of our revenues in the general fund in terms of intergovernmental. So that always lags behind because they come in way late in the year. So we have to upfront cash flow those. Okay. So that's kind of March results, pretty early in the year yet. I usually know more with the June results, and that's when we kind of start that budget process. In the healthcare fund for March, again, I'm still seeing pretty positive results on the expenditure side for health claims as well as prescription claims. People are most certainly going back to the doctors, so that's a good thing to see. So I still anticipate some savings on the expenditure side of the equation in healthcare, most certainly. And that will help again in our budgeting process for 22 and 23 as we get a little bit more accustomed to the real results of that high deductible health plan, which is still a little hard to tell because of COVID. So that's kind of the results. I know that was really, really super quick. Again, more than willing to discuss with anyone that would want to, more than willing to answer any questions offline with any questions that you may have on that. But that is all I have for you tonight.
Thank you, Director Fisher. Does anybody have any questions? Mayor Mason, do you have something to
Just a
add?
comment. I mean, I think what we heard from Director Fisher there was a reflection of some really, really hard choices we all had to make the last couple of years. And I certainly didn't enjoy those choices, but I think we're seeing the fiscal impacts of those tough choices. So thank you to everyone who was involved in that.
Thank you for that. Any other questions, comments for Director Fisher or otherwise? Okay, seeing none, I believe a motion to receive and file would be in order at this time.
Receive and file.
Okay,
Second.
motion to receive and file by Alder Mi'kmaq, seconded by Alder Tate II. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So I want to remind everyone that many of us are to continue on to the CDBG meeting, a separate link. So before folks go, if you are lucky enough to be among those folks to be headed to the next meeting as I am, please don't forget about that. That is still going to be happening. And I believe with that, our agenda is exhausted and we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.